welcome back to Everyday Magic. I'm Jess, and I recently took a huge hiatus from both consuming and creating content. I think the last video that I might have posted on YouTube might have been about how this past eclipse season in spring, I think it was February-ish, was just such a doozy for me, and it really stopped me in my tracks in so many ways. I joked on social media recently once I came back that I just kind of felt like a complete zombie. I felt like I could not formulate thoughts, and I was just kind of going through the motions and doing what I needed to do just to get through the day and do what I needed to do as a mom and get my kids to school, etc. And I just had no clarity, I don't know, I can't really explain it completely except the fact that I just totally felt like a zombie, and I figured it was a great time to just completely give myself permission to take a pause, and that pause shifted everything for me. And I am feeling so inspired to just show back up. I really feel like I almost have a new, a 2.0 version of all of the topics and ideas and things that I have been talking about. It's almost as if I didn't realize, right? Because we can't see where we are out of alignment always, in the present moment. Sometimes it takes, really living through it, feeling frustrated, and getting on the other side of that before we can see, oh my gosh, that wasn't the path for me, or that wasn't in alignment, or I thought I had good boundaries, but I didn't, right? All of these things. Sometimes it takes a while, and that's fine. That's part of the journey. So if you are there, just embrace it and just know that you will also get on to the other side and have your own levels of insight and your own growth and your own expansion. So really trusting that. So with that said, that is really kind of what called me to want to show back up again, is I realized how I wasn't embodying, truly embodying so many of these things that I was talking about. It was almost like this, 95% of me believed all of these things that I was sharing. And I didn't even realize that there was a tiny part of me that didn't, that was waiting for the evidence of that. And it was through slowing down and really surrendering and letting go and trusting and all of these things that, again, allowed me to really embody and experience the things I've wanted to experience. And in a very short period of time, crazy shifts have happened, and it has been really fun to see and witness and just notice, where I was out of alignment, and just these deeper levels of trust and surrender. So I will share a bigger video on that. I feel like I'm still wrapping my brain around the last 6 months and what has happened, because it really has felt like such a whirlwind in the best ways possible, even though in the moment, in certain moments of that, I felt like I was going crazy and I was going to lose my mind, and that I was never going to feel like myself again, and I was never going to feel aligned and inspired and creative again. And I really struggled with that, okay? And again, I share that because if you are in that place, just be gentle with yourself. You will get to the other side of this. And again, we'll go into more of that. But what I really want this video to be about, I was feeling just so inspired and creative and just wanting to create again, which that alone felt so good because I haven't felt like that for so long. And I just have this influx of ideas. And then as I sat down to finally record a new video, then it's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to talk about today? Even though I have this like sea of ideas, sea of new insights that I want to share. And, it felt like I needed some sort of, explanation to, I don't know, maybe why I haven't been around, or to where these new insights came from. And so I just wanted to start with a very quick blurb of that, even though, again, I will kind of dive into that more, because there was so much, there were so many things that came up during that time that I think will really serve. And it was almost like I needed to go through, not almost, like I did need to go through that in that way to make sense of it in the way that I can now make sense of, and now also share, and hopefully in a way that also serves you in wherever you are on your journey. So what I want to dive into today, however, is manifestation and why I want you to stop trying to manifest. And I chuckle with this, but this has been just ringing in my mind for quite some time, and I really want to share it. And it's funny because those of you who know me personally, know me through this channel or my podcast, know how much I love manifestation, know how much I talk about manifestation. And there was a time in my life where I had just manifested so many things, like seemingly effortlessly. And when I started my coaching business, I, was just so excited. I just loved this like deeper inner work. I loved connecting with clients in that way. I loved, seeing them have their own mini epiphanies and, new levels of awareness and insight that they were getting. And I just think that the work is so powerful. Yet I knew I wanted to grow this business, and, it's so easy to get caught up in the online world of growing online businesses, right? Product-based businesses, service-based businesses, influencer businesses, affiliate marketing businesses, right? All of the things. Even if you don't want to do that, I'm sure you're aware of like that world, and it's very noisy. And then once you're in it, it's even more noisy. And I realized that I felt like I was doing all of the right things. I felt like I was doing the strategies. I was trying to grow my business. I felt focused, and yet it just wasn't happening. I wasn't growing my clients. I wasn't growing the business as quickly as I wanted, as I thought I should. And this was certainly part of the impetus for really slowing down and reevaluating, because there was a part of me that was just so insanely frustrated with just the progress. I wasn't, not making enough progress, and just so frustrated at where I was. And I would say this is like kind of towards the end of last year, and definitely feeling like this the beginning of this year. And even during that time, right, like talking about manifestation, like I was doing all of those things, all the things that I talk about and think are supportive, and they just weren't working. And this is what I find so fascinating, is I think that the way in which humanity is manifesting is shifting. And I don't even want to really talk about manifesting in that sense anymore, because I think there's there's a detriment to speaking of manifesting in that way. And here's what I mean by this. So if you have ever listened to someone like Neville Goddard, and I'm going to totally butcher it. I butcher quotes all the time, so I apologize in advance, but he talks about like living as the wish fulfilled, right? So if you had manifested whatever you wanted to manifest, plain and simple, would you be trying to manifest it anymore? Right? And this just clicked for me. And I think it was, somewhere in my eclipse, like hermiting journey, where I realized that you have to just start living your life. You have to just completely like surrender and accept the present moment. And this doesn't mean that we give up on the things that we want. This doesn't mean that we stop trying or doing, but it's like we accept where we are, and we know that there is something better, more aligned for us, but we aren't so focused on like striving to get that. Does that make sense? And here is just a little example from me in any event that it might serve you. Is for as long as I've had kids, well, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And then once I had kids, it was like really like I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I had more flexibility over my time, and I could spend more time with them, etc. Right? Like I think a lot of moms can relate to this. And ironically, the pandemic turned me into a stay-at-home mom. And I talk about that on previous videos. I'm not going to get into that now. And even though, like I'm a stay-at-home mom, I have the flexibility to spend with my kids, I was still like trying like so hard to build this business. And Peter keeps like freezing, which is getting annoying. But I was trying so hard to build this business and make it work. And what I realized is like I already had the thing that I wanted. So how could I just like surrender into like my current role, right? It was like I had to accept, and yes, I put accept in air quotes, because for the longest time my identity was tied to I'm this woman who wants to be an entrepreneur and I want to have the successful business, etc., etc. But the thing that really kind of shifted it for me, or like just allowed it to sink in on a deeper level, is I happened to check. I was watching an astrology video, and it was very specific about the North Node and South Node. And I happened to check what my North Node in astrology is. And my North Node is in Cancer. And Cancer is the great mother. Or maybe it's like the cosmic mother, something like that. And it was like all of these light bulbs went off. So your South Node is then the opposite sign, which is for me in Capricorn. South Node is kind of like what you come into this world with, any karmic stuff. Oftentimes people will say the South Node stuff comes really easy to you because it's like what you came in with. You already know it, right? Where the North Node is what you are meant to experience in this lifetime and really lean into. Like that's where your growth is. And it was really fascinating to me because that totally resonated in that moment. And I'm going to do a whole nother video about North and South Node stuff, so stay tuned. But I realized, like, again, that Capricorn energy, how easy it is for me to just work hard and, kind of like grind it out in a way. And I know that I'm oversimplifying the Capricorn archetype, and I don't necessarily mean to do that, but just for the sake of this video, right? And again, in this moment, like in this eclipse season with the retrogrades going on and all of the planetary transits, it was like everything in that moment was just like giving me this information, and I could see it in a new way. And I just surrendered to that. I just accepted, you know what? Right now, like life has presented me with this opportunity to be the best mom that I can be to my kids. And I don't need to build the successful business in order to be that person. Like I am that person now. And again, I just stopped trying. I stopped watching all of the manifestation videos. I stopped consuming, like I just got off social media. I stopped consuming content. I stopped consuming content on YouTube, and I just started enjoying my life. And I know that that sounds so like almost simple, and some like there's like almost silly, like of course, duh, right? But that's hard to do. And I know that's hard to do, right? Because we're so wrapped up in all the things, and it's really hard to be present when we have these goals and ideas that the way that we think our life should look. But that surrender, and I'm going to do a whole nother video on surrender, because surrender happens at the energetic level, right? You cannot fake surrender. You cannot force surrender. You cannot say, oh, I'm just going to let it go, right? It doesn't happen like that. Your energy does not lie. But in this state of like, okay, I'm so frustrated with my business. This is what life is presenting to me. I'm going to just accept it, right? It's here for a reason. It wouldn't be here if it wasn't meant to be, right? This wouldn't be what I'm experiencing right now if it wasn't meant to be. And the same is true for you and your life and whatever scenarios and situations are playing out for you, right? It's always to learn something. It's always to grow. It's always to expand. It's always to, come back to your own wholeness, right? Like heal those parts of you. Again, whatever is coming up. And that, I say simple, but I know it's not simple because it took me a long time to get to this place. But that kind of like sudden shift really changed everything. And it started to happen so quickly. And again, I'm not totally ready to get into all the ways and things that have shifted. But just know, like, financial manifestations that I had been quote unquote working on, trying to manifest for years, things like that starting to come in, new opportunities, just feeling really good. When you hear people talk about like the power of magnetism, feminine magnetism, that sort of thing, synchronicities, all of that has been just like lit up in the best ways. And it really took me surrendering and coming into greater alignment. And again, I'm going to do another video on alignment because it's so different. I don't want to say different. It could even just be like how I'm now experiencing alignment. But anyway, I won't get too into it, but it's really coming into alignment. And sometimes we don't realize how out of alignment we are, right? But you're in alignment when things start to shift and you start to see and feel and notice and experience the synchronicities and the miracles and the manifestations coming through, right? And again, I can't reiterate this enough. When I had been quote unquote actively trying to manifest certain things for so long, and when I just let it go, when I just came into presence, when I just accepted exactly where I am in this moment and started to just live my life, started to just enjoy my life, enjoy my kids, do all the things, right? I stopped even thinking about manifestation or trying to manifest. I stopped watching all the manifestation videos, and I haven't watched them since because I just don't care. It's my view is so different. And that's why I jokingly but seriously am calling this like the last manifestation video you ever should watch. So how can this like actually support you, right? I know it's so easy to go to YouTube or anywhere else and like we want to learn how, we want to understand, we want it to support us. And the advice that I can give you is simply start to live the way you would live if your manifestations come true. And there's a caveat here, because I know some of you are trying to manifest these very ego-driven things, okay? And there's no judgment there. Many of us are. But the second you can let go of what the ego wants, and when I talk about what the ego wants, I mean the second you let go of manifesting something because you're trying to prove something, because you think you need something, right? Like you need X to feel happy, right? You need X to feel loved. You need X to feel validated, right? You need the promotion to feel like, I don't know, you're worthy in your family's eyes, right? These are all things, stories, beliefs that we make up. And maybe you feel like there is some truth to those things based on childhood experiences, your family dynamic, your cultural dynamic, etc. But at the end of the day, they're still constructs that we have created in our own mind. And it's only when we come back to our center, to our heart, when we come back to our own truth and what we really, truly want, that everything starts to shift. And the more you say yes to your truth, or you say no to things that aren't aligned with that truth, the more you will start to see the synchronicities and the manifestations and whatever it is, right? The miracles and the magic and all of it. The more you will see that showing up in your own life. I, believe that we kind of get rewarded when and this isn't like you were good, you get rewarded, get that crap out of your head, right? There's a lot of childhood stuff like that doesn't belong here. But again, it's just you being in alignment with that truth creates the energy and the physical environment for you to then attract in the things that you want. And on the flip side of that, sometimes we, attract things in that we do want. And then there's still a deeper level of not being quite in alignment yet. There's still something to learn. There's still something to experience, right? So maybe you do attract in the promotion, but 6 months later, you're miserable, you're overwhelmed, you're burned out. You're like, oh my gosh, I have this big fancy job title and I'm absolutely miserable. This is not what I want my life to be like, right? And to that, I would say that is the exact situation and environment you need to be in, because maybe now you are at the place of true surrender. Maybe now you are ready to be like, no, this is not working. Everything that I thought I wanted is not working for me. So coming back to your truth, and I even say coming back, and I'm hesitating with that because most people don't even know what their truth is, but it's that invitation to say, okay, this isn't working. What's missing? Not what am I doing wrong, but there's something deeper, and the frustration, the overwhelm, the maybe lack of fulfillment or satisfaction, right? Those are all indicators of being out of alignment, of not really following the heart's nudges and where we're truly, meant to go and what we're truly meant to experience. So the closer you can get to your own truth, the closer you can get into alignment with what your soul is really longing to experience in this lifetime, then everything starts to shift. And so when I say, live as if your manifestations have already come true, this doesn't mean that I think that you should start spending tens of thousands of dollars on your credit card because you're trying to manifest all of this money. It has nothing to do with that. What that means is when you have the money or the stuff or whatever it is that you want, how do you want to feel? How do you think it will make you feel? I want you to start going through your days with feeling that, right? And you can tap into that now, even without having experienced that, right? Because clearly you are aware of the way you want to feel. Otherwise, you wouldn't want it, right? Otherwise, like has to be like a tiny, tiny, even glimmer of that already inside of you, right? Like maybe it's like, oh my gosh, I just wouldn't be stressed. If I had more money, I wouldn't be stressed. I would feel more at ease. I would be able to relax more, right? Like even as I'm talking about that, allowing yourself to kind of lean into that, to think about like, how does that feel for you? Maybe you can just breathe like I just did, right? Just letting yourself, even in this moment, even for the rest of this conversation, just feeling what that is for you. And then practice. And yes, it is a practice, but practice that state of being as often as possible throughout your day. And again, like I said, it is a practice. But, one way that I do this, and it's so cheesy, but I just like walk around my house, and this isn't even a practice anymore. I think this is part of my like embodiment, but I could be like living in a castle. Not that I even want to live in a castle, but it's like I just feel like when I walk through my house, just so at home. I feel just like, I don't know, like a queen, like a goddess. Like I just kind of saunter around sometimes. Maybe that sounds really silly, but that is really like the embodiment, and whatever that looks like for you. And I don't know, I love, like I come down the stairs and I make my coffee, and it's kind of this like ritual for me, and I put my cinnamon in there, and I just really try to stay in my body, meaning like I'm not letting the to-do list or the things that need to happen today like take over this moment, if that makes any sense. I'll try to work to find better language for some of these things to try to support you with it more. But again, just getting into the feeling that you want to create, and then stop trying to manifest. Stop trying to do the practices. Stop listening to all the videos, right? Start enjoying your life now. Start seeing the beauty wherever you can find it. Smiling at people, having conversation with people, getting out of your house, getting into nature. It's so basic and so simple. And life will always present to you like where you need to come into your wholeness even more, where you need to be even more aligned. So this isn't about not seeing or feeling triggered, right? It's about noticing the triggered, noticing why it's being triggered within you, and then coming back into alignment through the trigger, right? Oh, I'm triggered because my friend just got this really great promotion, and I feel like I'm not as good because I don't have that promotion, right? Like digging into that. And then when you can come into alignment with you're perfect with or without the promotion, it doesn't matter, right? The more you can come back to that truth and that level of wholeness and connectedness, that is where everything shifts. And sometimes things just aren't meant for you because there's something better coming for you, coming to you, right? Coming into your life. So there's also this level of trust, self-trust, and trust within the universe, with spirit, God, source, creator, whatever you want to say, whatever resonates with you. So I don't want to make this video so terribly long today, but I'd love to hear how this resonates with you. I want to try to create, I could go on and on, but I want to create more like bite-sized videos. So I definitely want to do one, like I said, about surrender, alignment, self-trust, etc. So I can try to break them down in ways that it's really about like one sentence, one word striking a chord within your psyche, and it like flips a switch, right? And from that switch being turned on, it's like the brain gets to work, and you'll hear this, you'll interpret, you'll resonate, etc. with these messages when you're ready, right? When like your spirit is ready, when your soul is ready, when your heart and head are ready to come into alignment on that piece, right? Trust that and do the work simultaneously, right? So it's kind of like trusting those intuitive nudges and hits and the inspiration, not just from like, oh, that really resonated with me, right? So it resonated with you, and then what, right? We are able to do the work to heal and shift and more deeply embody when we take action. And I like to say that action is trust embodied. So they happen simultaneously, right? It's just like when we talk about the idea of co-creation. So somehow, right? And I'm like so fascinated by this. But where do our ideas come from? Where do our insights and inspiration come from, right? Is it the higher power, a higher power, the universe, whatever, sending it through us? And then it's like, how are you interpreting that and acting on it? I think that we really get caught up in this language of feeling inspired to create in order to make money, be successful, start a business, etc., all those things. And I kind of want you to take that off the table a little bit, because sometimes the nudges are simply to get you to turn right because you've been walking left for so long, and like the universe can't figure out how to get your attention. So it's like just throwing you something that it will think will start to shift your direction, right? Will start to get you to pivot just enough to get back into alignment with your path, right? So just little bits and food for thought. And again, take it for what you will. It will resonate with you exactly as it is meant to. Trust that, and then take action. I don't mean like overwork and get into like, I don't mean that at all, but I do mean like dance with the universe a little bit, okay? Take a step, let it show you the next step, that sort of thing. Lastly, I'm going to just say that the Leo new moon is July 24th. And again, this is just another opportunity. Leo is, we often think about it as like, courage and this type of, kind of fiery energy, but it also has a very playful energy. It's calling you to, do things that are fun and kind of have this curious spirit about it. So you can look at where that falls in your own birth chart, right? Like what house Leo is in your own birth chart. But you also can just lean into, where are you feeling nudged, pulled to be more curious, have a little bit more fun, play around a little bit, right? Trust that. We overlook it, right? We overlook it so often, but like those are the tiny intuitive hits and nudges that are just as important as the big giant ones, right? So again, I'd love to hear from you. I'm so happy to be back here sharing in this way, and I'm going to continue to show up until it doesn't feel aligned and I need to take a break. But for now, here I am.